Season 3 of The Flash introduced the ultimate bad guy for Barry, culminating in his actions having consequences, and it manifested into Savitar. While in theory it's a good way to cap off Barry's struggles with time travel and him learning the consequences of it, in execution it really didn't work, especially in the character of Savitar himself. This video I will explain my main concerns and criticisms for Savitar and why he didn't work, and I'll probably make another video explaining how I can change it. If you don't remember Season 3, I'll give a small recap. Barry, overcome with grief over the death of his dad in the Season 2 finale, decides to do the one thing he was told never to do: save his mother and reset the timeline. In doing so, he caused a new world, Flashpoint, and all is well until it went very, very wrong. He resets it, but there are more complications. His friends' lives has changed, an alien invasion happened, more metahumans somehow have appeared, and a new speedster threatening his fiance's life, which is revealed to us that the villain is Savitar, an evil version of Barry who failed to stop Iris's death and was overwhelmed with grief, became Savitar, and to ensure his own survival, must kill Iris so that Barry becomes Savitar due to his grief. At the end of the season, once Barry realizes that he caused so much damage to those around him, he voluntarily punishes himself in the Speed Force to ensure everyone he loves he won't be in danger. And yeah, that's the recap. We got other plot lines as well, like something with Julian and Caitlin having a maybe romance, and something else like, Magenta, the world's most original villain name, and some romance and unnecessary drama. But we're not here for that. We're here to criticize Savitar.
How did you become Savitar?
Throughout the season, we had no idea who Savitar is. There had been hints and guesses, and his identity wasn't revealed properly until the 20th episode. In a 23-episode season. What? Why did I need to do that? They did not have to reveal his identity that late into the season. It takes way too long, the reveal isn't satisfying, and most importantly, we know who it is! If we take out the obvious foreshadowing dialogue, it was incredibly obvious from a thematic perspective. Barry causing a timeline reset, then deciding to reset it again. I wonder who could it be? But the show makes it so dramatic and so mysterious, and again, it was obvious. And when it was revealed, it was everyone's first literal guess. Now, then again, there could have been other choices. I remember in high school when I was with my friends, we were discussing it a lot of the time, and we had some incredibly wild guesses. The most common ones was like Eddie and Ronnie, Iris's and Caitlin's fiancés or husband and wife. That was, thematically pretty cool. But we also got some wild ones. The most wild one was Joe West for some reason. And Barry's mum, it's like, she died, bro. Like, she's not going to do that to her own kid. What they could have done was the invincible treatment. Reveal it early on. Reveal it when Wally gets trapped into Speed Force. So when they show it, it's pretty shocking that Barry would do that to his own adopted brother. A version of Barry, at least. It would have shown that, 1, Barry feels that immense guilt of Wally because this was the cause of him resetting the timeline. 2, the idea of Barry trapping his brother in the Speed Force is pretty dark itself. What we originally got was just standard villain stuff, but revealing it to the audience and to the characters themselves, it would be pretty sick and horrifying. Number 3, get out of the way. We don't need to know why this Barry became Savitar. I just want to be invested in his character early on because originally we got nothing. He just pops up, talks in foreshadowing monologue, then disappears. Literally. Previous seasons let us explore the characters more, from Earbud's relationship to Team Flash to Zoom's, albeit it was like episode 15 to 16-ish. But, it was still, we get to know him a little bit as well. So why not do the same for Season 3? Let us explore what happens after his identity is revealed. What does Team Flash think? What does Barry think of it? And how much guilt is placed upon him that it consumes him to make more mistakes? Coincidentally, Arrow Season 3 made the same mistake as well. If you don't know or forgot, Oliver Queen becomes Al Sahim, heir to Ra's al Ghul, which is an awesome reveal by the way. But again, it was in the 20th episode. What is it with the CW and the number 20? My main problems are the same. Not enough time to follow with this version of the character. We didn't get enough time to get Savitar, and we didn't have enough time to follow Al Sahim.
That doesn't make any sense. Which came first, Savitar or Time Remnant?
When Savitar explained his origin, it did not really make sense. If you don't remember the history of Savitar, it goes like this. Barry, who is still grieving over the death of Iris due to Savitar, fights him around 2020 to 2021 and makes time remnants. Savitar slaughters them all mostly and keeps one around, with that remnant being shunned for not being the true Barry Allen, whatever that means. Like, they called the remnant that stopped the multiverse destroyer thing in season 2 a hero, but here they're like, nah, they're giving him that Naruto treatment, dog. Alone and overwhelmed with emotional pain, he broke mentally and decided that he should become a god. He finds the Philosopher's Stone and makes a mechanical suit of armor and spreads the myth or legend that there was a speedster god, aka him. He possesses Julie and Albert to become Dr. Alchemy and assembles a team of metahumans. And then he somehow senses that Barry resets a timeline and enacts his plan, beginning season 3. And his whole existence itself does not make sense. It definitely isn't a casual / bootstrap loop because there is clearly a beginning. Allow me to explain. A bootstrap paradox or a casual loop is basically a paradox when an object, person, or thing exists without a clear point of origin. It means something that is brought to existence through time travel, but its existence relies on its future self causing it to happen. In Savitar's case, Savitar exists because Barry creates time remnants to defeat him. One of the remnants is spared, so that remnant goes insane, and then that remnant goes back in time to set up events that will become his origin. But what is the origin of Savitar? In order for a bootstrap paradox to work, there has to be a starting point, or a quote-unquote initial loop that sets things into motion. With Savitar, they never stated that. The show itself explains that, and it implies that Savitar came into existence because Savitar killed all of Barry's remnants except one, and that one became Savitar. But for that to work, Savitar would need to exist prior to become a threat. But then that doesn't make sense because while the show doesn't imply it, a canon comic tie does. Savitar only exists because of Flashpoint. So yeah, that destroys it. And along with that, there is a line in the show's 100th episode where Eobard knows about Savitar's identity.
And yet, a version of him is Savitar. Much bigger jerk than I ever was.
Did you see the face?
Wait, what? How does he know that? And even if he knows, that means there's two things that applies. Either there was a Savitar in Eobard's timeline, or that Eobard knew what was going to happen in the show's run, which that wouldn't even make sense as well. That means he knew that Eddie was going to kill himself, thus erasing him from existence and him becoming a paradox that is being hunted by Black Flash. He knew that Hunter would come from Earth 2 to Earth 1, causing problems, and him eventually killing Henry Allen. And he knew that Barry would cause Flashpoint, and causes him to be in that prison, and then the birth of Savitar would happen. Which, again, doesn't make sense. How does Eobard know the events of a timeline that doesn't exist yet? He knows events from his own timeline, aka the OG timeline, but he cannot know events from season 1 onwards because he is not from that timeline, which further disproves that Savitar, it's not a bootstrap paradox. Now, how would I change this to make this more, fictionally believable? Easy. Change the version of Barry to the original timeline. The one who told our Barry not to mess with the timeline. I have a video coming up with a rewrite of it, how it would go, but this is the only change I would make Savitar. The concept is great, the suit is genuinely awesome, the performance of Grant Gustin is even much better than all of those. Savitar being shunned through a ridiculous reason is left to be desired, but everything was there. They had the thematic point, they had Grant Gustin, they had the suit, they had everything there, but they just wanted to be quote-unquote clever, which didn't do great. If I had to search up the villain's origin on some social media website just for them to explain it just as poorly as Savitar did, yeah, I don't think you did a great job, writers. While I said everything above was done either well or not too great, he was just overall boring. Like, really boring when you rewatch it. He spouts off gaslighting quotes to Team Flash like he's the witches from Shakespeare's Macbeth, then disappears for a bit, reappears to make fun of Barry, disappears again. Only when Barry figures out his identity is when he appears more, and just to spit out more dialogue. Before his identity reveal, he had no personality. He was just, I hate Team Flash and Barry, then poofs. Instead of a big bad, he felt like a weakly metahuman villain. Nothing interesting until they make him to be a villain. Again, with my first point, if they revealed his identity earlier, we would get to know Savitar better and early in the season, not the 20th episode where he spouts out everything and the viewers have to digest it and go, what? When Thorne's identity is revealed in the 9th episode, it was a great shock. Not because he was the reverse Flash, because it was pretty obvious, but it was like, Who the hell is this guy? This ain't Earbud Thorn, my guy. It was just some rando. We later discover Earbud stole Harrison's identity and merged it with his personality, and because of the earlier reveal, we learn more about Earbud as a character. Why is he working with Barry? Is he going to kill Team Flash? What is his endgame? With Zoom, it's a bit less complicated. Honestly, he's a one-note villain, just a very, very dark reflection of what Barry could have been. But his reveal is still great, albeit a bit obvious. And we get to learn about his character. Hell, we even got an origin with like flashback, so we know a little bit more about Hunter. But with Savitar, we got dialogue. Like, it's just dialogue, not even a simple flashback of him, at least, or, a scene of Savitar's timeline. I don't feel connected or invested, honestly, because they just told us. They never showed us anything. While you can make the argument that we never got an origin for Earbud in his timeline, I don't think we needed it because his present self was so interesting as a character that it made up for it. And it was great that we got one for Zoom. Like I said, he's not as interesting as Earbud, but he's still a good villain. But again, with Savitar, he's just not interesting at all. The only thing I like about him is the idea and Grant Gustin's performance and the suit. The CGI one, the practical one feels really funny to look at, especially when you look at the series finale. I mean, when he just appears, he's not that tall. And apart from Tom Cavanaugh, Grant is the best, actor on the show. A waste of a villain, a waste of my time, and honestly everyone's time. He was somewhat threatening, but when it comes down to the important bits of the story, his motivation, and if he's anything like Barry, it failed miserably, so that sucks.